Today we're going to talk about the myth of no pain, no gain. Now, I'm calling it a myth for reasons which are going to become evident, but before we even get there, a couple of preface remarks. First of all, if you're getting through intense workouts, if the intensity of the workout is something you can cope with time after time after time, if you're okay with it, you don't really need to watch this. Go away, use your time more constructively, although I'd love you to watch it and think about it. Second, if you're doing competitive sports, again, you don't need to watch this because essentially that mantra in that context really works for you. Now let's start from the beginning and unpack all this. First of all, the way we think about fitness is important because our thoughts lead to actions. The effect of those actions leads to how we feel about what we do and what we achieve, which then comes back to our thoughts, which comes back to our actions. It's an ever sort of looping cycle, if you like, that basically reinforces itself every time we go through it. And if we get caught up in it, essentially we enter a cycle of toxicity where a mantra that's designed to help us does anything but that. It becomes a stick we use to beat ourselves up with, and we start to feel deficient, we start to feel incapable, and we start to feel hopeless. Instead, it's supposed to make us feel capable, empowered, able to do whatever we want, and happier in what we do. Let's examine where it came from. Now, if you're doing competitive sports in any kind of definition of the word competitive, then essentially you're performance orientated. How you look doesn't really matter, although it's a side effect of all the actions you take in order to enhance and improve your performance. So essentially, if you're doing competitive sports, what are you really doing? In any sense of the word, competitive means that you're pushing your body to the limit, trying to find whatever tiny little trick or technique you can in order to exceed those limits when it counts the most. So if you're running, you want to go faster. If you're running speed races, if you are doing long distance or marathons, you want to be able to go longer, it's faster. If you're doing competitive sports, you want to be fast and powerful in the context of that sport. In order to do that, you really need to dig deep each time and find where your limits are. And then you need to put together whatever emotions, thoughts, and then actions are required in order to help you focus so you get past your limits or your perceived limits. And that's actually the trick here. Perceived limits are what keep us from reaching our maximum potential sometimes, and how we exceed those is exactly what this no pain, no gain mantra is all about. It's about pushing us past those limits, because really we can't do more physically than we're capable of, but we can always do more than we're perceptually capable of. And there's a whole sort of science behind this perception of what the body can do, which I'll get into in another video some other time because it's actually quite complicated. But for now, I will focus on this. So if you're training competitively, no gain, no pain is actually brilliant, because it quantifies in your head that you need to push past those limits time and time again in order to perform the way you want to perform, in order to basically succeed in whatever sport you're competing in. Let's go and see how this translates into us in an everyday environment. Well, if you're not in competitive sports, if you're training for fitness, you need to basically train so that you feel happy in your body, you feel capable in your body, you feel healthy in your body. And essentially, you need those things in order to have sustaining health habits, which are sustainable long-term. Sustaining means that they're good for you, and they make you feel good and empowered and healthy, and they increase your sense of well-being. And sustainable long-term, it means that you can basically do them again and again and again for pretty much your whole life in order to increase your lifespan first and your health span second. So in that context, going up against the no pain, no gain kind of mantra is counterproductive and arguably toxic. Why is it toxic? Because essentially it is used as an artificial yardstick that's taken from outside the context of our everyday reality, and instead of making us feel empowered, it makes us feel deficient. Instead of making us feel capable, it makes us feel useless. Instead of giving us hope, it makes us feel hopeless. Let's avoid all of that. If you're not competing in a sport, professionally, if you're not competing in a sport which may not be professional, but it means a lot to you as part of your identity, if you're not already engaged in high intensity workouts day in, day out, testing your limits, pushing past your own boundaries, if you're not doing any of those things, saying to yourself, no pain, no gain, is counterproductive. It does nothing for you. It actually works at the back of your head to achieve the exact opposite, because every time you feel pain, you basically create a signal that tells your body to avoid that workout. We are, by nature, hardwired to avoid pain and seek pleasure. And I use those two terms in a very broad perspective, but essentially that's what it is. And when it comes to pain in particular, especially when it comes to something as physically difficult, as energetically draining as exercise, then avoiding it becomes almost second nature to us. If you are new to exercise, this is no rocket science. You actually feel it every day, even though you don't articulate it. This is why most people get a gym membership, or they go into a class, they maybe do 1, 2, 3, 5 lessons, and they never turn up again. It's too difficult, it's too hard. Somebody's pushed them too hard. They never made it easy for them. They never made it pleasurable for them. They never made it empowering, satisfying, and happiness-inducing. So how do we get around that? How do we actually achieve this? Well, essentially by busting this myth. Anytime anybody tells you, no pain, no gain, as a means of inspiring you to exercise harder and to exercise longer, well, they are wrong, sadly, and you should be able to understand it. There's no need to correct them, because it gets into some kind of contentious engagement where they are partially right within the competitive context, but they're not really right within an everyday kind of context. But we don't need to enlighten them about that. You know, if it works for somebody and that's a mantra they live by, perfect. Let's not take that away from them, but let's not use that mantra on everybody who wants to exercise in order to be happier, in order to be healthier, and in order to feel more capable in themselves. I really hope this makes you think a little bit about this. That's my intent. I really hope you understand that essentially fitness in itself, in order to be sustaining and sustainable, has to be good for you. It doesn't have to push you to your limits every time. It doesn't, or any time. It doesn't have to make you hurt every time or any time. It doesn't have to exhaust you and drain your batteries, because that's not what it's designed to do. So if you do little things relatively, you know, perhaps 30 minutes of exercise, but you do it 7 days a week, and then you do this for the rest of your life, and you mix those exercises so you don't habituate your body to them and it doesn't become really easy for you, then you're going to be healthier, you're going to be more capable, you're going to live longer, and you're going to be happier. And that's amazing. That's exactly what fitness should be about. Now, if you want to have bigger muscles, if you want to look in a particular way, you can achieve that within that context, again, in a gradual step. But if you want to push your body to the limits every time so that you actually achieve something else, well, that's when that mantra comes in on no pain, no gain. And that is a competitive context. And usually it's for a small percentage of the population, for a small percentage of the life of that small percentage of the population. It's not forever. Keep that in mind. Okay, I hope this clarified that for you. I hope it makes sense the way I presented it. It's something I've been thinking about for a long time, obviously. I'm always a little bit hesitant to put this out there, simply because it is a little bit contentious, and fitness shouldn't be about that. And also, for a large part of my life, I was part of that culture because I was training for competitive martial arts. No pain, no gain was the mantra I lived by. And often I would say to myself, maximum pain, maximum gain. It worked for me in that context, but I know now, having thought through it, that it doesn't work outside that context, and we shouldn't be transferring it, because then it becomes toxic, because it becomes counterproductive, and it doesn't help anybody become physically better. And basically fitness and empowerment within that field should be about that. I hope this helps. I hope you guys take it on board, think about it. Tell me in the comments below any thoughts that you have about it, or any feelings that it sparked. Take care of yourselves. See you all next time.